back, America. Hey, listen, my guest this afternoon right now is Dr. Grace, the world-famous Dr. Grace. She's the editor of the Politics and Culture section of the World Tribune. She's also the host of American Heartland with Dr. Grace radio program, and wildly popular, by the way. Also, she is Freedom Friday's Washington, D.C. correspondent and has been for a long, long time. Dr. Grace, I'm glad you're with us today, and I know you're going to want to talk about this topic, so I've got this awesome clip that I want to set you up with because, folks, hear this. Some years back, those of you that have watched those really creative and interesting Holiday Inn Express television commercials, you're going to hear an audio clip from an actual Holiday Inn Express television commercial. This was done some years back, and it's going to blow you away when you hear what Holiday Inn was using as a joke kind of television commercial to advertise, no, but I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. So, Mallory, play that clip, then we're going to let Dr. Grace go off on that and so much more.
This is a very rare strain of the Ebola virus. It produces mRNA, the deadliest of the stem loop structures. Oh, don't worry, it's not an airborne strain.
Excuse me, how long have you been studying the Ebola virus?
Well, I'm not actually a scientist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
There you go. Dr. Grace, do you remember that by chance? I do. As soon as I heard that clip and saw it, I saw it on YouTube, and I said, I remember that.
No, I had no recollection whatsoever. But, you know, Ebola, as everybody knows now, is certainly no laughing matter. And I think, Carl, that what's happening is that the incompetence of this president is hitting home with this Ebola crisis in a way that we have not seen in the whole 6 years that he's been in office. You know, I think a lot of what we've discussed for 6 years, the debt, whether it's the problems in the Middle East and his failures in foreign policy, a lot of that doesn't hit home, right, you know, to a lot of average citizens who, you know, they tune in and some of them fitfully, and it just doesn't really resonate. And that's probably why he was able to win re-election. But something like Ebola and the president's inability to protect the American people from this devastating virus is really hitting home. Yeah. Because right now, you're starting to see a movement. I've been hearing it percolating on talk radio. It's not an impeach Obama movement. What's emerging is a resign Obama movement. Right. Basically, a tremendous amount of pressure to force him out because it was another avertible crisis, just like the ISIS taking over Iraq, an avertible crisis. Right. There is no reason at all that we should now be fearing that the Ebola crisis can strike any one of us. We should not be in this situation. This was foreseeable by everybody. And yet, we had somebody coming in from an Ebola-stricken country allowed to enter our shores when we knew that there should have been a travel ban from those countries into America. So it is outrageous, and I applaud Governor Jindal for openly calling upon that travel ban right now. Right. And I think what's going to happen, Carl, is the public is going to press the president to do something. And again, we're seeing a situation where the public leads the president rather than the other way around. Yeah, you remember Mitt Romney penned an op-ed, and he says that this man doesn't react before a crisis. He always reacts afterwards.
Yes, I remember that.
And that is just exactly what is happening with Ebola. And now all of us have to fear that our elderly folks or children, those who might be even more vulnerable than others, might be stricken with this. And some of them, yes, can recover, but maybe some of them won't be able to recover. And we shouldn't have to face this. It's outrageous. And I think this is going to cost the president the midterm election.
Well, let me ask you this. Am I missing something here? And if I am, please tell me. I don't mind being corrected if I'm wrong about something. I truly don't. But let me ask you, is sending 3,000 American troops into an Ebola-infested area and then bringing them back on our soil eventually, is that wise? Is that weird? Is something wrong? Am I missing something?
I completely agree with you. I don't think that this is the mission for our armed forces.
No.
And I told you this before. I think we're misusing our troops. I would challenge anybody to show me where are they trained to combat Ebola. I don't think they even have it in their training manuals, combating disease. They're not trained for that. But I have to say this. I said it before. Our armed forces are being treated like a bureaucracy with guns. This is the kind of job that it's for public health officials, highly trained public health officials to go in there and try to contain the virus, not for our troops.
Right.
It's outrageous that he sent the troops to do that. And I agree. I think he's imperiling some key assets that the nation has. It costs a tremendous amount of money. If you just want to look at it from a purely mercenary point of view, apart from looking at it from the moral and spiritual point of view, but just from a mercenary point of view, do you know how much money it costs to train a member of the armed forces, that we all pay for that training? So those are vital assets. And you don't put those assets in harm's way unless you absolutely have no other choice. And I think, too, that was a foolhardy policy, and obviously one that's not working. It's not being contained in Africa, and it's spreading. It's now spreading to the U.S., so
right.
That's another failed policy.
Right. And now we've got Obama with this plethora of statements. Basically, don't worry, be happy, everything's cool, there's no problem here. And he literally said that he has a tremendous amount of confidence in the, quote, extensive screening at our airports, that this is not going to come into our country. And then I read on a news site, I've got it pulled up here, zerohedge.com reported it, but it came from a CNN site where some CNN employees recently experienced coming back into the country and this extensive screening. Listen to this, Dr. Grace. It says CNN chief medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen said that when she and two colleagues recently returned from reporting in Liberia, here's what they got at customs. They said, we all said we were journalists who had just been in Liberia covering Ebola. This CNN medical correspondent. One of my colleagues was told by customs, "Oh, okay, welcome home," and they just let us in. She says, now Cohen herself was in another line, and she said, "Listen, we've just returned from Liberia where we've been investigating Ebola," and she says, "I was told, wait a minute, I think I got an email about this." And the Border Patrol officer went and consulted with his colleagues, she said. Then that officer came back and said, "Listen, you just need to check yourself within the next 21 days. She said, "What should I be checking for?" And the guy said, "I'm not sure." That's the extensive screening that we're getting at our airports that Obama says, hey, there's no problem in America. We've got extensive screening. This is from CNN employees, Dr. Grace.
It's staggering. I think what's happening in our country is absolutely staggering right now. Even Vice President Biden said at a recent speech that it appears like the world is fraying at the seams. Even he had to concede that. Because, Carl, it does feel that way, doesn't it? I mean, these kind of diseases, that's like from the Middle Ages. Right. I mean, we haven't experienced that kind of fear, like widespread public fear of this type of disease in ages. And this is medieval, because this is something that should have been prevented.
Right.
This country used to have very high standards, and we've seen over the course of the last 6 years that we don't have the same standards that we used to have in any of our institutions.
Right. No, listen, I'm with you on that. I agree. I've got to say that article I just read, one of the comments underneath it, the first comment says, "Don't worry, we have nothing to fear but fear and Ebola." I mean, hey, listen, let's take a time out, Dr.